So, how does the world political view and the world economic view affect the United States? Today, we talk about how international companies can affect the United States and North Carolina specifically. Today on the world view. Everyone talks about politics as if it's some disease, right? That somehow infiltrates the United States in different areas and different industries and those types of things. But I think that politics is something of a tool, something of it facilitates certain things. But the problem is that political animals, and I call them political animals because that's what they are, do things strictly out of political efficacy, political benefits for them, for themselves. They talk about these good intentions, but the problem is the road to hell is paved with them, right? So basically, what happens is that you have the governor of North Carolina who just announced that they are going to build a plant, and this plant is going to be in North Carolina, and they are going to bring in 500 jobs, and it is just fantastic, and it's good, and life is good, and whatever else. Well, I started looking into this company, and basically, the company that is coming in is called Epsilon. Now, Epsilon Advanced Materials, EAM, which is basically what the full name is based in where? India. It's based in India, and they're bringing in a plant to the United States. Now, everyone sits. I know you're going to sit there and say, "Yeah, but it's not China." Well, I'm gonna explain how India is tied to China. I mean, inextricably linked to China, and how that situation, in fact, is going to bring in unwanted foreign companies that are going to give us jobs in the United States to do things that maybe we want to do, and maybe we don't want to do it. So let's go right to the main stage, right? So first of all, we have this thing. So NS Energy, which is a NS Energy business, right? Epsilon to build $650 million graphite anode plant in North Carolina, United States. Now, what is an anode? Well, there's two parts of a battery. There's an anode and a cathode, right? And that anode there has to be some type of conductivity between the anode in order so it can move electricity, like a regular battery, right? Well, what happens is graphite is a great conductor, and basically that graphite helps to move that electricity in a very efficient manner, so that it moves and you're able to use the electricity. So that's why an anode is very important, and that's why the graphite is very important to be able to construct that anode. So this is it. It's 50,000 tons per annum of graphite anode, and all they talk about is the great stuff. Built in Brunswick County. Now, I'm not sure where Brunswick County is. Maybe we can take a look at it, whatever else. But bottom line is it's going to be in North Carolina. And they're doing it. India is doing it because they want to compete with China. So, and this is just... India is smart. India is extremely smart, because what they're doing is they're playing both sides against the middle. They're sitting there saying to United States, we're your friend. They're going to China, we're your friend. And basically what's happening is that they are putting their eggs in the Chinese basket. They're not putting their eggs in the US basket. And it's interesting how, they're going to put in there and they're going to get 500 jobs. So reach full capacity by 2031. It's going to be ready to go by 2026. And they're beginning building basically in a year. So here's what Governor Roy Cooper said. North Carolina continues to lead the way in a transition to a clean energy economy. Clean energy economy. I want that very clear, that he used those words. Clean energy economy. I'm going to show you how this is not clean energy. And this is, yes, it provides anodes for batteries, and the batteries, lithium batteries, go into cars, and electricity, and life is good, and blah blah blah, clean energy, and blah, 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 all the climate change crud that we hear every single day from these same politicians that talk about clean energy, right? Clean energy. Historic investment will bring 500 clean energy jobs. Clean energy jobs. Very, very important, right? I mean, I want you to make sure that everyone understands that. So it talks about all this stuff. So we're going to talk about this in a second. So let's talk about graphite. So what they're going to do is they're going to build, in this area, they're going to build graphite for anides. They're going to use synthetic processes to be able to do that. So climate change impacts of graphite production. Okay, this is from goodelectronics.org. Right, so it's a nonprofit. Normally, .org means nonprofit, but could mean they're making profit, whatever it is. Research has shown that natural graphite mining can cause dust emissions. Purification of battery-grade anode products required high qualities of sodium hydroxide. I think, if I'm not mistaken, sodium hydroxide is lye, and hydrofluoric acid, harmful to both human health and environment. Around 75,000 tons of graphite is required to create 1 million EVs, meaning that to produce 12 million EVs, we'll need 900,000 tons of graphite by 2025, because that's basically what they need, I guess, the electronic vehicles, whatever you want to call it. So this right here, very important. An environmental consultancy and software provider, Minvro, which you can look up, found that the calculated global warming potential values for producing 1 kilogram of anode grade graphite. Okay, this is what I am told. This is what I see this plant doing. Is coal-based grid mixes are 800, somewhere around 800% and 1,000% higher than the commercial database value for natural and synthetic routes, respectively. So this is what we're talking about. Global warming percent, right? So all these clean energy jobs, clean energy for North Carolina, clean energy. No, it's not. They're going to use chemicals that basically they're going to have to get rid of somehow. Where are they going to get rid of them? Are they going to put them in the water? I mean, and they're already putting CO2 in the air. So this is something that has to do. Okay, you don't believe that? Let's go to mining.com. Climate change impacts of graphite production higher than reported. Okay, so here we go. True climate change impacts of producing battery-grade graphite can be as much as 10 times higher than published values, depending on the energy and material inputs. So here we go again, right? According to Minvro, again, the same one who said that, most published LCA studies, life cycle assessment for graphite production, do not sufficiently represent the sizable contribution of different electricity scenarios to the overall impact of operations. Producing anode-grade graphite for lithium-ion batteries, LIBs, is energy intensive. Existing graphite supply chains often situate energy-demanding process stages in regions with low-cost energy, such as Inner Mongolia, where the grid is dominated by coal, and therefore has a high climate change impact per kilowatt hour. So let's take a look at this, right? All right, so how are they going to do this? Is New Brunswick going to get the nuclear power from the Raleigh, from the area around Raleigh plant, because they have a nuclear power plant there? How are they going to do this to be able to lower that cost efficiency and be able to do the climate change? So basically what's happening is the government in North Carolina, and I say the government because basically, if Cooper says it, right, his administration is saying it, so that the government of North Carolina at this point is saying it. Now, the guy's a lame duck governor. He's no longer going to be governor after whatever, next November or whatever it is. So he's kind of saying, hey, look what I've done, building a legacy of things. But in the meantime, and I'm not saying, I think this is I want to make this very clear. I'm not busting on jobs. If you want to put 500 jobs in there, good. I think that's great. Give people work. I think it's great employment. Good for you. But don't sit there and say this is going to be your jobs, and also it's going to be clean energy when it's not clean energy. Basically, what's going to happen is you're doing dirty energy in order to produce clean energy. What is the payback on that? What's the ROI? What's the return on investment that you're going to be doing in order to be able to make clean energy? But you're dirtying up the air as it goes. Is this a cost? Is this a sunk cost? Or are we going to sit back and go, oh yeah, that's fine because literally we're making the place cleaner. So as long as we make the place cleaner, but the problem is, and this is very important, is anodes are not forever. They wear out. You have to make more. So you got to make more and more and more and more using dirty energy with which to do this in order to produce clean energy cars. This is like, it just drives you nuts with this stuff. So, I mean, require 10 to 15 times more graphite than lithium. Lithium-ion batteries, which is what's happening right now, require 10 to 15 times more graphite than lithium. Now, you guys can look this stuff up. I'm not the only person in the world here. You guys can look it up. EV sales soar worldwide. As around 96% of all anodes in LIBs contain natural and/or synthetic graphite as their primary materials. And it's interesting, synthetic graphite, how's that done? It's done through coal tar. It's done through fossil fuel-based stuff. It's fossils. It's fossil fuel-based. And you sit back and go, so what happens is you have natural graphite mining, right? Can cause dust emissions. So that causes dust emissions, which goes into the air. So it causes air pollution, and it basically puts particles in the air. So the particles, the particulate matter in the air, PM in the air, is more, right? So that decreases the amount of sunlight that's getting in there. So, I mean, all of a sudden, and then forms a greenhouse gas effect because the particulates go here, the sunlight's already in here, can't go anywhere. So all of a sudden it's reflected down. So there's all kind of issues having to do with dust aspects. So, and then they talk about the different numbers and different aspects and, natural, coal, all these different things that go here. So I'll tell you what, I'm just going to, and this is from mining.com. I'm going to put this on a banner and I'm going to put this there because I think it's very important to sit back and say, here's it. So this is where this is located. You can look this up. You can look this up. It's just nutsy cuckoo how this is all working. The CO2 impacts of synthetics vary depending on the grid mix, whereas a larger proportion of natural impacts can come from reagent and fuel use. Study clearly highlights the values of GWP in the specified production routes for existing graphite anode supply are much higher than previously and assumed values from LCA databases and whatever else. So the trade-offs, here we go. State of affairs, and they talk about the trade-off, and there are significant opportunities to reduce the environmental impact of anode production by utilizing low carbon or renewable energy sources. But the problem is this, and this is really, really important. In order to get to that area, you have to be able to have a 2,500 degree Fahrenheit heat. And you cannot get that from solar, and you cannot get it from wind. So you have to have nuclear energy, fusion energy, if that's available in the future, whatever else, or you're going to have to use coal-based energy. Coal-based, fossil fuels, oil, coal, to be able to get those types of heat areas. You just have to. You can't do it anywhere else. So that's going to be a real issue in the future as to what's going to happen there. So then engineering news, right? Ramping up domestic graphite production could aid the green energy transition. But it says a key ingredient to lithium-ion battery supply chain is not built to last. So the paper was published last week, is the first natural and synthetic grade graphite material flow analysis for the U.S. It's 11 end-use applications for graphite. So here we are. So this is Jennifer Dunn, who's the associate professor of chemical and biological engineering, and she talks about, hey, look, this is it's funny. The paper was co-authored by Jinwoo Zhang, postdoctoral scholar in chemical and biological engineer, and Chao Liang. So this is interesting. Are these students? So anyways, bottom line is this, is that the U.S. uses mostly synthetic graphite, which is produced from byproducts of the fossil fuel industry, and creates a paradoxical relationship between graphite and technologies like electric vehicles that aim to remove right? Fossil fuel supply chains, but you have to have fossil fuels to be able to make the anodes, to be able to put in the batteries, to be able to put the batteries in the electric vehicles. So, I mean, do you see how this is? And this is a worldwide aspect of this whole thing. So this is all. I mean, and guys, again, I'm going to take this and I'm going to put this. This is Northwestern. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to put this into that area here because I think this is pretty important. And I'm going to take and put this up there. So now you can take a look at this. So yes, the title of it is really very optimistic, right? It's like, oh, this is what we're going to do. But the problem is, if you start doing the research on this stuff, and it's like, holy mackerel. So basically, the plant that is being built in Brunswick County in North Carolina is going to actually make pollution. It's going to make CO2 pollution. It's going to make water pollution. It's going to make those types of pollutions that go up into the air and go into the water. And what exactly does that do? Well, it produces nice clean energy. Well, that's real nice, but in the meantime, the production process produces dirty energy. So it's like, what the heck? Well, it makes your mind. Why are you doing this? So, and that says most of the graphite consumed in the U.S. in 2018 was synthetic graphite, with 63% of this graphite produced domestically. Production of synthetic graphite emits more greenhouse gases than mining natural graphite. Natural graphite is between 62 and 89% lower greenhouse gas emissions. Synthetic graphite is also more expensive. However, the U.S. does not mine natural graphite, but imports it predominantly from China. That's right. That's right. We imported from China. Interesting, right? So now India comes into play, right? So all these things are happening, and it's this really, really strange, and that's why I wanted to do the worldview, right? Epsilon Advanced Materials, let's take a look at that. First India EV plant takes shapes to cut China dependence. That's what this is, batteryindustry.tech, right? So they talk about this, converting coal tar into graphite nodes. Coal tar into graphite nodes for electric vehicle batteries. Interesting, right? So, I mean, all of a sudden it's like, oh, we can produce synthetic graphite. Yeah, but the problem is you produce CO2 emissions. It goes on and on. So let's talk about this for a second. Let's talk about the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, right? Last updated 2015, so this is older than dirt. But basically, this Council for Foreign Relations talks about the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Why am I so interested in that? Why do I constantly talk about the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and BRICS, BRICS, right? Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and they're inviting other countries to come into BRICS because the Council for Foreign Relations and the UN sanctions the SCO. They think it's great. So basically, what's happening is there's all these countries, and there are even more now that are coming into the SCO. And the SCO is basically China is making the play to do SCO because they want economically for everyone to come underneath their currency. China wants one currency and it's going to be theirs. And they want all these countries to come into their area. And the SCO has gotten countries like Iran, Saudi Arabia, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India. I mean, I can name the stands, the different stands, the Kazakhstan, and Kazakhstan big into coal mining, right? So all these things. So this is interesting because Kazakhstan just had a mine fire. What type of mine was it? A coal mine. A coal mine. So, I mean, this goes on and on and on. These are so linked. Everything is linked here. And you can sit back and you can go, yeah, but India is our friend. Are they? Are they really our friend? Or are they just saying, look, we'll put a plant in here. We'll give you 500 jobs. We'll help your economy. But in the meantime, oh, by the way, remember that Paris Climate Accord thing that you guys signed? Hey, don't worry about that. You don't worry about that because this is all for electric vehicles, and electric vehicles are clean. So no matter what happens, the means to an end, right, folks? The means to an end, right? The end is clean energy. No matter what we sacrifice to get there, we have to sacrifice that. If we have to put more CO2 in the air, if we have to put more pollution in the water, it's worth it because it's clean energy. See, it's the means to an end. I mean, think about wars that have been started, wars that have been continued with regards to that phrase, means to an end. This just is really interesting. And the UN, they not only love it, but they have a political and peace building affairs representative on the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. I mean, the UN has a representative on the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So Afghan, Belarus is in this. Iran, Mongolia, right? 6 dialogue partners, Armenia, Azerbaijan. Both Armenia and Azerbaijan are with the SCO, or want to be. Cambodia, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and Turkey. And Turkey's a NATO member. And they want to be part of this. So, I mean, why is that? Because I guess the best way to show it, really, honest to God, best way to show it is to show you a map, because I think this is, and I've shown you this before, but I think it's very, very important to continue to try to figure out exactly, what we're talking about from that standpoint. So, I'm not going to worry about this. So here you have China, right? That big thing right there, right? So what do they want? India. Look at India. India has a massive border with China, massive border, But so do countries like Afghanistan. Afghanistan's right here. Look at that border right there, and they are building a bridge. I just talked to a person from India. They told me they're building a bridge here. Where's Sri Lanka? Well, there's Sri Lanka right here. And at one point, there was actually a bridge that was, this is interesting, actually. There's a bridge there that's formed between these two areas, right? Pretty wild, huh? So, I mean, really, it's an island, kinda, but when you take a look at this, it's actually attached to India here, and India's helping them out. China wants to get into Sri Lanka. They want some port facilities and other things, but India is actually helping them out because Sri Lanka is hurting right now. So this is what they're having, right? Basically, China is trying to expand their influence over this entire area, over Central Asia. So they're trying different areas: Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Afghanistan. They want Pakistan. So Pakistan's over here. So they want Pakistan, they want India, they want this entire area to fall underneath Chinese influence. And so we sit back and we go, well, it's okay because it's India. It's India, putting the plan in place. Really? Why do we need India? And this is just, again, my ignorance, okay? Why do we need India to tell us how to do anode stuff? Where are we getting the graphite? In other words, are we getting the graphite from China and then fabricating the anodes from a plant that India has built for us? Just like, what the heck? So I think that basically the main reason that I'm doing this show today is because of the utter, and I don't want to say hypocrisy, because I don't think I'm trying not to use words like that, because they entice emotions, right? And I don't want to entice emotions. I just want to say that the governor of North Carolina, who is a Democrat, has stated that we're going to put in a plant, and this plant is going to produce, and he probably said something wrong, like batteries, but it's not. It's anodes for the batteries. Anodes for the batteries go in electric vehicles. Look at us. We're clean energy. Yes, 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 yay, yay, yay. And the bottom line is he's leaving office with this legacy of 500 jobs in Brunswick. And then all of a sudden, people are going to do what they call climate quitting. Now, this is an actual term. People are quitting jobs because they're so infatuated with this climate change that the minute that the company does something that's not in regards to climate change, they quit. So I want to see how many of these workers, these 500 workers that work for this plant in Brunswick, when they suddenly get determined that, look at this thing, it's spewing out CO2 and whatever else, going to quit. Well, you lose your job. You lose your job, then what happens? Somebody else is going to take your job because it's people need jobs, so they're gonna sit there and say, look, I don't, hey, this is for electric vehicles, and that's what I'm going with. So it's that type of thing. So I'm not saying anybody's like hypocritical, whatever else. I'm just saying politicians do things for their benefit. Their benefit. They talk about, oh yeah, this is for the benefit of North Carolina. Yeah, I've heard that stuff before. I've heard all this stuff. And the bottom line is really, does it really help North Carolina, or does it? I mean, it'll help that Brunswick area because they'll get 500 jobs. But what is the cost of putting in a plant that basically is going to produce uh, produce emissions, right? Produce possibly CO2 emissions. I mean, they're using very highly volatile chemicals to be able to make this thing work. Is that where those chemicals going to go? So all these things have to be taken into consideration, and evidently they weren't. Or if they were, it was kind of like, oh, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Get the plant built. Get the plant built. We'll worry about that stuff later. So that's what's going on there, and that's very, very interesting how that's all going to work. So it'll be interesting to see how the climate change aspect comes into play, if at all, in North Carolina. When we talk about these clean energy jobs and how it all works. So I wanted to bring all that up today because I think this is really important to be able to focus on like one thing and show how India, which is part of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which is made up mainly of China and also Russia and the different stans in the Central Asia and Afghanistan and all these different areas that the Chinese want to expand. And then all of a sudden, they come into play where it's like, well, India's given us a plant, so we should be happy with that. Well, from the job perspective, that's fine. And if you want to go with that, I'm okay with that. But don't tell me this is jobs for cleaner energy when the process has been shown not to produce clean energy. It produces dirty energy to produce clean energy. I don't understand if that's going to be offset enough, the dirty energy, to be able to produce enough clean energy to be able to offset those carbon emissions or whatever else is going to come out of that plant. And that's where there needs to be some investigation as to what is going on inside that plant and what are the things that are going to go on inside that plant that are going to cause some issues. And so far, not one, surprising, right? Not one media, not one in North Carolina, and certainly not at national level, has taken this on, has sat back and said, look, what exactly does this plant do? And what is the process on this plant? No investigation, no journalism, just, hey, look, what's happening in North Carolina? Yay, 500 jobs. That's great. And I don't have a problem with that. If you want to tout the jobs aspect, good, but don't call them clean energy jobs if they're not clean energy jobs. And that's my bottom line. So we'll see what type of feedback I get on this video. This should be very interesting. But until next time, we'll go back to the worldview, and we'll make sure that you understand how this worldview really does, in fact, I mean, especially in this case, impacts not just the United States, but impacts your local community in North Carolina, not just Brunswick area, not just all that, but all that area, all the way around Brunswick, all the water sources, all the air sources, everything that's going on around that area. What exactly are we doing, and why are we doing it? So until next time, this is Chris Greco with hopefully that thought left in your head about the worldview and its effect on the United States and on us in our little neighborhood. Take care.